to me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
She was born Sally Margaret Field on the 6th of November 1946 in Pasadena, California, into a house where stories were currency and studio calls were normal. Her mother, Margaret Field, was an actress. Her stepfather, Jock Mahoney, was a swaggering actor and stuntman. Other kids had dads who came home in work boots. Sally's came home with bruises from movie fights and dust from Western sets. From the very beginning, she knew what a sound stage smelled like, what it meant when an adult came home tired in a way that wasn't just physical. Hollywood wasn't some distant dream. It was the family business. In the 1,960 seconds, television beamed her into American living rooms long before she felt ready for it. Her first big break came with the light-hearted sitcom Gidget, which ran from 1,965 to 1,966. She played a sunny, impulsive teenager dreaming her way through Southern California beaches and crushes. The show lasted only one season, but that was enough. Overnight, Sally Field became Gidget. The girl next door America didn't actually live next door to, but wished it did. Then came the flying nun from 1,967 to 1,970, and with it, the image that would trail her for years. As Sister Bertrille, a tiny novice whose habit literally lifted her off the ground, she flapped her way through absurd premises and slapstick gags. The scripts were whimsical, sometimes downright ridiculous, and more than once, she felt trapped in the joke. But audiences saw something else. Under the costume and the wires, her warmth and timing made the character feel human. She was funny, yes, but also kind, vulnerable, and real. To the world, she was a hit. To Sally, a seed of unease was already growing. Because behind the laughter, she knew something was wrong. People weren't seeing her. They were seeing a type. The cute girl, the TV darling, the one you cast to keep things light, then forget when you needed depth. She could feel it every time. A script arrived with the same rhythms, the same beats, the same smile. That was when she made a decision that would quietly change everything. She walked away from comfort and into a classroom. Sally went to the actor's studio, studying under the legendary Lee Strasberg. For an actress already famous, it was a kind of rebirth and a kind of humiliation. In class, nobody cared that she'd been on a hit show. If the work wasn't honest, Strasberg told her. If the scene wasn't lived, he said so. She dug into pain she'd spent years ignoring, stripped away the TV persona, and began searching for the part of herself that hadn't yet been allowed on screen. The first proof that this transformation was real came not in theaters, but on television. In 1976, she starred in the TV movie Sybil, playing a young woman living with dissociative identity disorder. It was a role miles away from flying habits and bikini-clad teen comedies, a role that demanded terror, fragility, rage, and a kind of emotional nakedness that couldn't be faked. Field didn't fake it. She jumped into the abyss. The performance was shattering. Critics raved. She won an Emmy. Just like that, the industry had to admit what she'd known all along. Sally Field wasn't cute. She was dangerous. She could go to the places most scripts were afraid of. The 1,970 seconds and 1,980 seconds became her golden years. But they didn't feel golden in the way people imagine. They felt like proof. In 1979, she played Norma Ray, a small-town Southern textile worker who becomes a labor activist. The role required grit, fire, and exhaustion, the opposite of glamorous. She rolled up her sleeves and carried the movie on her back. The result, her first Academy Award for Best Actress. A working-class woman fighting for union rights had turned a former TV lightweight into one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. 5 years later, she did it again. In Places in the Heart, 1,984, she played a widowed mother in Depression-era Texas, trying to hold her family together after tragedy. It was quiet work, not showy, the kind of performance that stays with you long after the credits roll. When she accepted her second Oscar, she uttered the now famous, often misquoted line, "You like me. Right now, you like me." People teased the phrase for years, but if you listen closely, you hear something else. A woman stunned, after decades of doubt, that the industry finally saw who she was. Between those awards and beyond them, she built a filmography most actors would kill for: Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, where she matched Burt Reynolds' Laugh for Laugh and Mile for Mile; Steel Magnolias, 1989, where she ripped hearts out with a single graveside monologue; Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993, and Forrest Gump, 1994, where she played mothers complicated enough to be real, never settling for saint or stereotype. Television never let her go, either. On Brothers and Sisters, 2006, 2011, she played Nora Walker, the sharp, flawed, fiercely loving matriarch of a messy modern family. The role won her another Emmy, and reminded viewers that while some stars fade with age, Sally Field kept deepening. And still, she didn't stay in one lane. On Broadway in The Glass Menagerie, she stripped everything back again, proving that even on a bare stage with no camera safety net, she could hold an audience in the palm of her hand. But the headlines don't tell the whole story. They never do. Behind the roles was a personal life as layered as any script she ever touched. In 1968, at the height of her early TV fame, she married Stephen Craig. The marriage gave her something she desperately needed then: an anchor. While the world treated her like a commodity, home was where she tried to be just Sally, a young woman figuring out how to be a wife, an actress, and soon, a mother. They had 2 sons together: Peter, born in 1969, and Eli, born in 1972. Those boys would inherit her creative DNA in very different ways. Peter Craig became a novelist and screenwriter, working on films like The Town and Top Gun. Maverick. Eli Craig became a director, best known for the cult horror comedy Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Sally wanted them to grow up with something she never really had: a sense that art wasn't just fame, it was work, discipline, and choice. Her marriage to Stephen ended in 1975. The breakup was painful, but life didn't slow down to let her grieve. She was raising children, chasing roles, and trying to stitch together a sense of self that belonged to her, not to network executives. In 1976, a new chapter began when she fell into a romance with Burt Reynolds. On screen, in movies like Smokey and the Bandit, they were irresistible, playful, sexy, chaotic in all the right ways. Off-screen, they were one of Hollywood's most watched couples, the mustached king of box office and the woman who made him crack open. Their relationship, which lasted in fits and starts until 1982, was passionate and complicated. 2 huge careers, 2 different temperaments, one endless glare of attention. Burt would later call her the love of my life and the one that got away. For Sally, it was more complicated than a soundbite. It was a period of growth and hurt, of learning what love could and could not fix. In 1984, she married again, this time to producer Alan Greisman. They had a son together, Samuel, in 1987. Unlike his half-brothers, Sam stayed mostly out of the spotlight, dabbling in writing and directing on his own terms. When Sam came out as gay, Sally didn't just support him privately. She stepped into the public conversation as an advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, using her platform to push for acceptance and equality. For her, it wasn't a political issue. It was maternal. It was personal. Her marriage to Greisman ended in 1994. Once again, she walked away from a partnership, carrying the lessons but refusing to let heartbreak define her. Through everything: marriages, divorces, romances, and single motherhood, one thread remained constant. She loved her children fiercely, and she worked hard to give them a life that didn't feel like an endless red carpet performance. If her personal relationships were complex, so were her friendships. One of the most surprising and moving stories she's shared in recent years is about Robin Williams. The world knew them together best from Mrs. Doubtfire, where she played Miranda, the ex-wife of his character. On screen, they sparked like exes who couldn't fully untangle themselves, fighting, laughing, revealing deeper layers of hurt and affection. Field later revealed that their chemistry wasn't just good casting, it came from something real. I really loved him, but it wasn't like a romance. It was more complicated than that, she said. He wasn't her lover. He was something stranger and rarer, a friend whose soul she recognized and whose darkness she always felt humming beneath the jokes. Working with Robin, she said, was like being pulled into a whirlwind. He could improvise 5 variations of a scene in the time it took most actors to memorize one. He'd riff, tease, jump, spin, and then, in a heartbeat, drop into a moment so gentle and sincere it made your eyes sting. The clown and the poet, packed into one body, racing against some invisible clock only he could hear. Field admitted she always sensed an ache in him, a sadness that never quite left, no matter how hard he tried to outrun it with humor. She felt protective. She also felt helpless. After his death, she confessed something that haunts many who've lost someone too soon. Regret. Regret for the things she never said, the extra calls she didn't make, the moments she didn't push past the jokes to ask, "Are you really okay?" "I miss him terribly," she admitted, "and I don't know if he ever really knew how loved he was." That mix of gratitude and guilt, thankful she knew him, grieving that she didn't do more, is the kind of complexity you only hear from someone who's tired of pretending. Maybe that's why, in 2018, she wrote her memoir, In Pieces, and didn't hold back. In it, she finally told the truth about the years the audience never saw, the difficult family dynamics, the wounds of her childhood, the men who shaped and hurt her, and the internal storms she carried. Today, in her late 70s, Sally Field isn't trying to maintain an image anymore. The ingenue is long gone. The anxious Emmy and Oscar winner trying to prove she's legitimate is gone too. What's left is a woman who understands that telling the truth about pain, about love, about the people you miss, and the ghosts you still carry, is the bravest performance of all. She's still working, still reading scripts, still stepping into roles that ask her to be honest, not pretty. But she's also looking back, at the little girl on the soundstage, the young actress in a flying habit, the mother juggling 3 sons and a career, the friend who loved a troubled genius, the woman who hid her own depression behind a practiced smile. And now, she's finally saying the things she once buried. What part of her journey surprised you the most? The fight to be taken seriously? The complicated love she carried for Robin Williams? The quiet war she waged with depression as a teenager? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more deep, nostalgic dives into the hidden lives behind the performances that shaped your childhood, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because behind every familiar face on screen is a lifetime of untold scenes, and we're just starting to turn the pages.